Warning: the following podcast may contain coarse language and is intended for Philadelphia Eagles fans. Fuck the Cowboys.
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Birds Locker podcast. I am your host Chris Baxter from the Locker Room. This is pre-game for the final week of the regular season, finally coming to an end with week 18 Eagles versus Giants at MetLife Stadium. As we played the Giants recently, I won't go into too much of a preview, but we will talk about the possible playoff scenarios and things of that nature. But let's start with some Birds news. AJ Brown finally spoke to the media after 2 weeks of silence. He spoke about how he has no issue with the coaches right now, especially Nick, who he spoke very highly of, especially of his loyalty to his players. He also mentioned that he was frustrated and has apologized to teammates in a team meeting. He also mentioned how in Seattle they actually ad-libbed on the last play, and it was something that Nick took the blame for, which he really respected, that he didn't throw his players under the bus. He put an emphasis on this needing to be turned around by the players, but is confident that we have the right people in the locker room to do so. My thoughts on it: he spoke and said all the right things, which is a big tick. He apologized and owned up for his poor behavior, another tick. He tried turning a negative into a chance at a positive, which is another tick. Definitely the right stuff that you want to hear. My only drawback though, we've heard a lot of talk from nearly everyone on this team, but the output on the field hasn't improved. That's something we need to see. All these comments, honestly, they mean nothing. In some more positive news, the Pro Bowl players were announced, and for the Eagles we have 6 Pro Bowl players. AJ Brown has made his 3rd Pro Bowl. Back-to-back Pro Bowls in 2 seasons in Philly, which is a fantastic achievement and showing that it was a great recruiting move. Landon Dickerson has made his 2nd Pro Bowl, which makes it back-to-back for him as well, and in his 2nd and 3rd season. Big future ahead for him. He's a fantastic player. Hassan Reddick has made his 2nd Pro Bowl. Back-to-back Pro Bowl appearances in his first 2 seasons in Philly. Another great recruit. DeAndre Swift has made his 1st Pro Bowl in his 1st year in Philly, and he's already shining. It's great to see. Lane Johnson with his 5th Pro Bowl, back-to-back to add to the other 3 that he already has, and solidifying him as one of the best offensive linemen that this team has ever had. And the really big one, Jason Kelce has made his 7th Pro Bowl, which now, along with 2014 and 2016, he has gone 5 Pro Bowls in a row. Dominance at the center position, and he now joins an elite group with Chuck Bednarik, Brian Dawkins, Jason Peters, and the late great Reggie White as the only Eagles to ever earn 7 or more Pro Bowl nods. A gold jacket awaits our beloved center, and I know retirement looms, but he's still such an elite player and we all love him, and I'm sure that we all want him to continue on as long as he can. Now let's get back to the game this week and let's take a look at the injury report. Now taking a look at the injury report for the Eagles, despite initial reports showing that he may be able to get up before the end of the season, Darius Slay has been listed as out and will not play until at least the playoffs. Alongside him, Devontae Smith has also been listed as out from not practicing all week after that nasty ankle injury against the Cardinals. Alongside them, DeAndre Swift was listed as questionable with an illness, and 4 players were listed as unspecified, although they were all full participants in practice on Friday, so shouldn't be of any concern. Those players are Jordan Davis, Hassan Reddick, Zach Cunningham, and Avonte Maddox. Initial thoughts, I'm not really worried about the unspecified guys or DeAndre Swift, because I believe if DeAndre Swift gets over his illness, he plays. If he doesn't, he plays next week anyway. The 2 that you would worry about, Devontae Smith not practicing all week is obviously not a good sign for an ankle injury, and we would desperately need him back for a playoff run, that's for sure. One to watch. Darius Slay not getting up as well is not ideal. I mean, he's a professional. If he has to come in and his first game back is a playoff game, I have no doubt that he will give everything he has and he will be ready. But obviously we would have liked to get him some reps before the end of the year. Taking a look at our opponents, the Giants, they have 7 people listed on their report. Jason Pinnock is listed as out. John Michael Schmitz is listed as questionable. Deontay Banks is listed as doubtful. Carter Coughlin, Darnay Holmes, Dane Belton, and Tyrod Taylor are all listed as playing. Obviously, the one there that's probably the one to stick out is Tyrod Taylor, as when we played them last time, Tommy DeVito got benched at halftime when it was looking like a blowout, and Tyrod Taylor came in and brought them right back into the game. Definitely one that, he's always playing for his next job, his next moment, and this is one where, him playing in this game could be a big deal for him financially at least. Alright, a game preview. Another to the loss column after a disastrous loss to the Cardinals at home. This is the first time this season we have lost when we've scored over 20, showing it was a very, very bad defensive performance. Is detrimental as we lost the division lead and are unlikely to get it back, barring Washington pulling off a huge upset along with us winning. Dallas's loss may have been marred with controversy, and Detroit winning would have kept us first in the division, but ultimately we controlled our destiny and failed. Both Philly and Dallas games will be played at the same time to avoid teams just simply resting players. I think there'll be a lot of fans that'll have 2 screens on, making sure they check in, but I don't expect that result to go the way that we want, but there's always hope while it's there. Checking out our opponents, the Giants are 5-11 on the year. As mentioned 2 weeks ago, it's been a very disappointing season for them. They'll be looking to next season. I wouldn't be surprised to see some non-starters or people who haven't had a lot of snaps this year getting some extra snaps in this game. Maybe to get a look, see which ones are worth keeping, which ones are worth releasing. Maybe some guy, snares a contract by playing good in this game. Who knows? I think Daboll's struggled a bit with what he had this season. It wasn't always the players on the park that he would have wanted, but he still hasn't been able to get the job done. He'll be needing a turnaround, otherwise I believe he'll be a bit on the hot seat. This is a what have you done for me lately league. You don't always get that many opportunities. They're definitely better at home. They're 3-4 at home versus 2-7 on the road. We'll have to pay attention to that if the win does matter. They currently hold the number 5 overall pick. I can't imagine the ownership wants that pick to get any lower in the draft. I imagine they'd want it, if anything, to go up. We'll have to wait and see how they come out and whether they rest players, what happens. We won't go through their ranks as we did that 2 weeks ago, but to recap the Giants offensively, they're the worst passing offense in the league. They like to run the ball, but even then they're average at that. They don't throw too many interceptions, but they are prone to fumbles. They have the worst pass protection in the league by a long way as well. Plus 20 sacks on the next nearest teams. Their offensive line has had injuries and struggles all throughout the year. They average 14.9 points per game, which is good for, I guess you wouldn't call it good, but 30th in the league. It's definitely one of, if not the worst offense in the league. I know injuries play a part, but they also just lack weapons and stability big time. They really do struggle. Defensively, they're not great at stopping the pass. They do get thrown on quite a bit. They do get some interceptions to make up for that, but they do struggle in that department. One of the worst at stopping the run, though. They're bottom 5 in that. Which is bizarre, as I mentioned, the interceptions and the fumbles and that, because they're really good at causing turnovers. They're top 5 in the league. Although it's a strange one as well, because they're the second worst team at getting sacks. They're second least in the league. They average 24.8 points per game against, which is 28th in the league, which surprisingly is marginally better than us, as we sit 29th. It's been a roller coaster up and down unit. That would be a lot better if they weren't on the field as much due to a lackluster offense, but they still haven't gotten the job done when they've needed to. Overall, bad football team, struggles on both sides of the ball. There's little to nothing to play for, apart from the guys who may be playing for jobs, guys wanting to get that contract. They may try to ball out in this game. Looking at Coach Dayball, I believe that he's a coach who will still coach to win regardless of the situation. I think it's in his DNA. I wouldn't be shocked to see some trickery or some elements of surprise going into the back of the playbook a little bit. Taking some extra risk. But I don't see them taking any banged up players into the game, and may send some off for early surgeries if need be. I can't see them really risking anyone who, unless they've got something to gain in the game, I can't see why. Now looking at the keys to the game. Offensively, they're one of the worst teams in the league against the run. I said this last week, but obviously it needs repeating. Brian Johnson. For fuck's sake, for the love of God, run the fuck out of the football. Please. I said Swift and Gainwell last week should combine for 200 plus, and they didn't even combine for 100. If we do this right, I'll give you 25% off and say, let's get them to 150. Easy. This team does generate turnovers quite well. Don't give them the opportunities. These are guys who've got not a lot to play for. But if you give them a reason to keep playing, they'll keep playing. It's football. When the game's on the line, everyone's going to keep going, aren't they? Giants are top 10 in third down stops at 36.9%. Avoid third and long. Make it easier to convert. If we get to third and short, you know what we're going to do. We run it. Nobody can stop it. But if you go to third and long, these guys are good at getting people off the field. They score 24 points as an offense last week. 7 came from the defense. We should honestly be aiming for 30 plus as an offense, barring guys being taken out of the game, which could happen depending if the Dallas versus Washington score. If Dallas are running the score up on Washington, I can't imagine us leaving our offensive starters in if there's nothing to be gained. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. Now defensively, their run game is still their key, even though it's average. Our run defense was awful last week and has really been awful for the back half of the year. It needs to be much better. Don't let them have anything in this game, especially, you never know what happens. What if us winning the game wins us the division? We have to still play it like this is a playoff game and we need to win it. They're the worst passing team in the league. Get them into third and long. Force them to pass, because they're also the worst at giving up sacks. It's time for this D-line to put up or shut up. 2 sacks in 2 weeks, nowhere near enough. Especially last time against this team, 1 sack, horrible. They've been horrible since mid-season. They really need to step it up. Given the factors at play, honestly, barring keeping players healthy for the playoffs, as much as I regretted saying this last week, this should be a walk in the park. Now, looking at the player watch for this week, Eagles, it's obviously always going to have Jalen Hurts on here. I feel like he's such a catalyst for our team. I thought he was good last week. I know the numbers. People go, oh, we didn't win and he only threw for 160. I thought that when he needed to make plays, he made them. We still had some drops. We had some bad play calling. But when his number was called, I thought he was pretty good. He just needs to get these receivers more involved. I feel like, we have some weapons and we just don't quite utilize them in the right way. I don't know if he's just not taking the shots that he should be taking, if he needs to check down more, but we need to get that ball spread and get those numbers up. He's, especially coming into the playoffs, he needs to start putting this offense on his back. Own it. Own this team. It's yours if you want to take it. And once again, just keep moving in that positive direction. As I said, I thought he was good last week. I thought he was also pretty good the week before. Just need to keep moving, trending upwards. We don't need to be a superhero right away, but we do need to keep winning. Big week for AJ Brown. He's not been himself both on and off the field. He owned up to his mistakes. He said the right things. We now need to see the right things on the field. Smith may potentially be out. We need him to step up. And we know that he's capable of being the main guy. He has been the main guy all year. But we need him to really own that, because we can't have him going for like 50 yards and then we don't have Smith on the field, because then you really lack that other option to do that. So we need him to really take charge and take those catches and have a 10 reception game. Fuck it, why not? We really need, we need that positive, that AJ always open Brown back right in time for the playoffs. I keep bringing this guy up, but Josh Sweat, he hasn't had a sack in the last 7 games. After 9 games, he was on 6.5 sacks. I thought, man, this guy's going to ball out. This guy's going to, what if he gets to 12 or 13, 14? What if he just goes nuts and gets to 15? Like, now he's sitting here and he's still on 6.5 sacks. It's unbelievable. This guy is so much better than this. He really needs to get going here and get some momentum going into the playoffs, because none of that regular season shit matters. It matters if you can get it done in the playoffs. And I think a good game here will go well to getting him ready for that. And I really like seeing Jalen Carter as well. The baby Rhino is making plays. He's had an excellent rookie season. And I really am super keen to see him in a playoff run. I've seen this guy when he played at Georgia. He loved the big moments. I'm really keen to see what he can do. And I think he's honestly, in my opinion, he's the defensive rookie of the year. We'll have to wait and see whether he does get it. But yeah, really keen to see him in this game and following into the playoffs as well. Big week for Shaq Leonard too. Not a good performance last week. I thought he was pretty good the week before. I need him more involved, especially when we are being smashed by the run. We got him on board for that. Cunningham, potentially banged up again. We need Shaq Leonard to really be that run stopper and enforcer on this defense. Sidney Brown's another one for me. This guy's becoming a playmaker. That 99-yard pick six, this guy's a heavy hitter. He fits the mold of what we love in a safety. I mean, if you put the words playmaker and heavy hitter and Eagles safety into Google, what do you get? You get one of the best players that we've ever had. He's playing well at the right time. I feel like he's starting to adjust and really get comfortable in this system. And hey, go nuts, go off. It's a big week as well for Nick Sirianni. No more learning, no more lessons, no more we trust in our guys, no more excuses. Playoffs are next fucking week. Switch this team the fuck on. The buck stops with you, we must be ready. For the Giants, I won't really go through too much for them. Obviously, their season's pretty much in the toilet. What is in the toilet? But one player that I think we need to keep an eye on is Saquon Barkley. It's possibly his last game as a Giant. I would think that given their situation, where they're at, I don't think he re-signs there. I think he looks for greener pastures and probably looks to see if he can go to a contender. Don't know if he'll be a target of ours. I think that having DeAndre Swift this year, have the year that he has, we probably lean on that. It's probably cheaper for us as well. But, hey, you never know how he will look for. Playoff scenarios I'll go through now. So now, we cannot go any lower than 5th seed. It's either 5th seed or 2nd seed. It's 2nd seed if Dallas lose and we win, 5th seed if Dallas win. The most likely scenario is Dallas wins over Washington, our result doesn't matter, and we play Tampa wins over Carolina, which would mean that we would be the 5th seed at Tampa Bay, who would be the 4th seed in the wildcard round. Now, depending on the results, if we are the 5th seed, because of the jumble in the NFC South, we could play either the Bucks, the Saints, or the Falcons. Obviously, it's very unlikely for the Falcons, but we could play any of those. It's an absolute mess in that division. If we were to get the 2nd seed, though, we could host either the Packers, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Saints, or the Vikings. It's pretty wild to see so many possibilities of 7 different teams at 8 different scenarios. it's tough to prepare for because you really can't think ahead. Because if like, say for example, if you knew that you were playing a particular team, if we knew we were playing Tampa Bay, you could spend a lot of this week preparing for Tampa Bay as well. We don't have that result, so we have to pretty much just wait till the end of our game and just go from there. But that's the beauty of it. We will know exactly who we are playing as soon as the game is finished. All right, let's look for a prediction. The weather looks fantastic for this game. There's barely a cloud in sight. It looks like it's going to be sunny. Not a hell of a lot of wind, so it looks like it's going to be a pretty nice weathered game. The game does hinge on the Dallas result. I think that'll depend on what we do with our players, whether we bench them at some point, whether we keep track of the score. Maybe we just play the game out and not even focus on it. Who knows? Some players like to do that. I can imagine a player like Jalen Hurts in particular would not pay attention to another team's result. He would just go on about his business. And yeah, it may impact whether they stay in the game or not. I can't imagine the Giants being honestly overly motivated, because they're not going to be able to play spoiler with us necessarily, because even if they were to beat us, we're still in the playoffs. I think we'll win a pretty average game. I think the starters will come off the field at some point, even though I believe that we could probably use the reps, and as long as we get what we need done in, say, 2.5, 3 quarters, and we know Dallas are going to win, I think we should probably take our starters out and get them rested and healthy and ready. I think the scoreline, I think we win 34-14. I've been wrong on a lot of these scorelines, but it's worth a crack. All right, that is it for episode 7 of the Birds Locker podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe on all platforms. Any feedback and questions are more than welcomed. And we look forward to this week's game. All right, let's get a break. Go Birds on 3. 1, 2, 3, go Birds!